for the Public Works for August 15th. We've got acceptance of the agenda. If there's no discussion or about it, we'll just go ahead and dispense with the motions and approve it as is. Citizens' comments. Do we have anybody from the citizens there? I noticed we have two folks that are here that would you identify yourself at this point to let us know?
Yeah,
For the record.
Sure.
I mean, I've met some of you.
yeah. My name's Steve Casey, civil engineer with
Right.
Civil and Environmental Consultants. I'm here with Christine.
All right. Welcome.
Yeah. I'm Christine Guy Baker. I'm also a civil engineer with Civil and Environmental Consultants.
Okay. I
Helen
know.
Morrison.
Right, I know, but I wanted to, you don't come very
Right.
often, so I wanted to let the people that watch it on TV, because you'd be surprised on how many people watch this,
Yes.
even out of state. And we have one Army guy that's in Europe, that serves in Europe, that watches this.
That's pretty cool.
So I thought that was kind of fascinating, really. So you want to go, because I had somebody said, what is that? So go ahead if you would just identify yourself.
Sarah Locke, Public Works Director.
And Alderman Mike Martin, and I'm Mark Skidmore, Ward 1 Chairman,
Eddie Robertson, Ward 6.
and he's our Vice Chair. Okay, we've done all that. We don't have any citizens' comments tonight, so we're on for what this special call meeting was for. And then one other thing, we almost forgot the most important person in this room, right there. Could you let us know?
I'm Jason with IT.
Okay, thanks. He is indeed the most important man in this room, I'll tell you that. Anyway, and no offense to anybody, including myself, but he genuinely is. I tell you, okay. And we're glad to have you as you always.
Thanks, sir.
Yes, sir. The ordinances and resolutions is the reading of the ordinance amending Hendersonville Municipal Code Title 18, which is the Stormwater Management Ordinance, to comply with the new Tennessee Department of Environmental and Conservation small MS4 permit. So I need a motion and a second, and then we'll just start on it. But under the rule, that's what we do.
Motion.
Second.
Okay, there's been a proper motion and a proper second discussion. It's all y'all. I give you the floor to go for it.
Well, I'll go ahead and start and
Okay.
provide some introduction here. So this is our Title 18 of our municipal code that we're looking to repeal and replace. The majority of the reason for that is it was based on the new MS4 permit that we signed on to or sent notice of intent for coverage under in September of 2022. And we had a 2-year implementation timeline. So our new ordinance had to be updated to come into full compliance with the new permit requirements by September of 2024. So that's the purpose of our special called meeting. What you have before you for the ordinance, everything contained in the black text in Exhibit A, which would be the full title replacement, everything in black is a requirement to satisfy the minimum requirements under that new permit. The text shown in red, which there's not very much, but the text shown in red are clarifications or discretionary additions from staff. And the main reason for that is to clarify some of the ways that we already interpret or manage, but in order to provide additional clarification, we felt it was important to include those items. So that's what we are here to discuss and of course answer any questions that you may have about it.
All right. Thank you very much. I guess this has really, in a way, been a long time coming. So I know our city's worked on this, or you guys have worked on it for quite some time. So we'll give you the floor to kind of go over what, where we were and now where we are now. And if we have any questions, we'll be asking.
I really couldn't put it better than what Sarah said, but in general, basically, we did an analysis of reading through the ordinance and found places where it wasn't consistent with both the TDEC MS4, small MS4 permit that you mentioned, as well as the construction general permit, which was updated. So And they kind of gave time to MS4s to also make those updates to the CGP so that they could do them all at once with the MS4 as well. So most of the changes that you will see are just clarifications that were made or changes that were made to the MS4 permit that the city had to comply with. And that's a large majority of what's going on.
And part of the requirements also, they're requiring a lot more like plans to be in place, like basically like operating procedures essentially. So Helen has been working really hard over the last 2 years on putting together like an enforcement response plan, which is referenced in here, which is just really documenting the way that we already function. It's just putting it all into words on paper to fulfill the requirements, the new permit. So there are some changes related to water quality. Some of them are a little bit more lenient from what was in the previous ordinance, but
Right.
Full transparency, that hadn't been enforced previously because there was an appeal into the state regards to that. And so it wasn't like, it was very, maybe someone else could explain it better, but not everyone was enforcing that fully because it was a 90% TSS removal, and that's total suspended solids, and it was interpreted to be unfair and extreme. And so they've reduced that, but now we are enforcing that and have been enforcing that for well over a year now. So a lot of this is not a sudden change to our development community. We've been doing these things now. So we've been requiring operation and maintenance plans, things like that. So everyone's kind of used to it. Plus Nashville's been operating that way for several years now. So a lot of it is just putting into words what we're doing to comply with the permit.
Is the one question, let me back up. I usually wait until last because the rule says that I'm supposed to, and which, I'm a rule breaker, so it doesn't matter. I guess, but, the floor is open if you all have any questions on that.
Follow your lead.
Okay. I've got several questions, not anything to sandbag yet. I just need to know, is the utility district aware of all this? I want to make sure. I'm sure they are they affected by this? I mean, I know what we have to do, but are there provisions in there that the utility district is aware of, that are they even responsible for any of this?
I would say the impact of the utility district is pretty minimal. I mean, they'll have construction projects and they'll have to control their sediment for their sites, same as they always have.
Okay.
But they don't do a lot of like new build construction where they're gonna have water quality requirements. and
Okay.
things like that.
All right. I just wanted to make sure that, we're covered on all aspects of it. So,
Sure.
yeah, at this point, that's, and so we also, I noticed, and I haven't gone to it to look, but the appeals board, is it a committee? And then if they still object to that, that goes directly to the board? Is that what on the board, the appeals process is?
It's,
Page.
yes.
It's 18105,
It's
so.
on page 43.
43.
I think the appeal itself would go to it would go to circuit court, actually.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, I don't think it comes to us.
Mm-mm.
okay. That's,
So here we go.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that I did not read this, but if it was getting from my printed out on my printer.
I think past going to the appeals board, though, it would go to actually like a circuit court.
Okay. All right, thank you. That's it. That's all
Yeah.
at this point.
That's right.
Thank you. That's all I really have at this time. Good.
Is there a fiscal note on this change?
No, there are additional requirements, but we have worked out a way to absorb those with our existing staff for the way that we operate now. And part of the way we've done that is by putting certain requirements back on the development community, such as one of the things that's in red in here is for now, under the new permit, you can disturb greater than 50 acres at a time. But in order to do so, you have to have regular assessments. And so we have clarified that they'll have to do assessments, but we will have a contractor do that for us, and the developer will be responsible for paying for those invoices monthly. So we still have the control, and we make sure it gets done, but whoever the responsible party would be responsible for that cost. So it's just some of the ways that
So no fiscal note,
that's right.
no fiscal.
Yes, sir.
Does this make the environment better? Is it an improvement in the environment? Will it improve the environment?
I think so. Yes.
I
Yeah.
think so.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think it's the requirement for all of the plans too, so they can, instead of just checking a box saying, oh yeah, we do all these things, now you have to demonstrate and show, well, how do you do all of these things? And so I think that in itself will.
I think it'll be a vast improvement because what was done previously regarding water quality was essentially not a whole lot or nothing. During construction, yes, they installed erosion prevention and sediment control measures to prevent sediment-laden water discharging into waters of the state and into our system. But now we have the 80% total suspended solid requirement that requires new and redevelopment projects to treat their discharges into our system and waters of the state. So most definitely what's being discharged is going to be cleaner than under the current ordinance.
So you said there's no fiscal note, but it is going to require more work, right? It will require more work on the staff.
Yes.
Does the state provide any financial assistance
No.
to implement this regulation?
No.
Okay. I didn't think so, but I had to ask.
That's a good question though, because was gonna ask that.
So explain to me, and y'all may know, explain to me what an MS4 permit is.
It's a municipal separate storm sewer
System.
System.
Now
Thank you.
interpret it. What is it?
So we as a city, all of our stormwater from the city gets discharged into waters of the state. In order to be able to do that, we have to obtain a permit from them. Otherwise, we would have to detain all of the water within the city and handle it, like manage it ourselves. We would not have permission to discharge into streams and the lake.
The lake, okay. So it should make the stream going into the lake cleaner
Yes.
Should.
upstream.
And keep the
upstream.
lake, the ecology healthy.
Okay. Sarah, I'd like on page, on the exhibit A, under 4, I would like to remove the reference to city administrator. We don't have a city administrator. So I'd like to amend that if you need a motion, but to change that to chief of operations. You see that?
Good catch.
Yeah, I was.
And I gave Sarah a heads up a little earlier. How is our enforcement doing, just as a general question, Helen, for stormwater and wastewater, runoff and stuff like that? Pretty good compliance?
I think so. We have a new stormwater inspector. Her name's Christina Bannister. And she had previous experience with the city of Gallatin. She actually went private and worked for a very large company doing compliance through them. And she's ensuring that they comply with our municipal code through her enforcement actions. We have a variety of them. Obviously, it starts out with written warning, a verbal warning, written warning, and then we move forward with notice of violations. And we can stop work or withhold codes permitting and inspections. And so generally that's kind of the route we go, and stopping work costs money, and that tends to get people to start moving again.
Which those steps are on page 40 of the rule. So, verbal warning, so how far down are we having to go to get company's attention? Verbal warnings adequate, or written notices adequate, or stop? Have we issued any stop work orders?
We have issued stop work orders, most of the time. Thank you. So, for our reporting period
Yes.
of July 1, 2023 to June 30th, 2024,
Okay.
we issued a total of 7 stop work orders.
Okay.
That's for that annual reporting period.
Okay.
Now, there are 3 different categories that we report to TDEC through our annual report:
Okay.
illicit discharge detection and elimination, construction, and then permanent stormwater post-construction runoff. So, to give you an example, illicit discharge is a unpermitted or non-stormwater discharge into our MS4. So, somebody goes and dumps a bucket of paint down the storm drain, or dumps their grass clippings into the storm drain. Illicit discharge. So we go out, we, provide those communications, depending, each circumstance is different, obviously, but we communicate with those individuals and go through our process, notice of violation process, and generally they have to provide a corrective action plan to us. And the city engineer, actually, he reviews it, approves it, and we implement that plan. So that's illicit discharge. Under construction, obviously, that's where Christina comes into play. She is inspecting all of our construction sites monthly throughout the city. And she has phone calls, she sends a report for each inspection. Within that report, identifies any existing deficiencies. So, and I can go down the list, or kind of.
Have we had to? It seems like it's increased enforcement action as we go from A to F. So, is D as far as we've had to go, or have we had to withhold plan approvals or other authorizations?
So there was one plan approval that we notified planning not to approve anything, but then after we met with the individual, we removed that hold.
Okay.
So we issued the notice violation stop work order. They came in and met with us.
Okay.
We talked over everything. They implemented a corrective action plan, and that was removed.
We've not had to go to F, additional measures.
Now, under additional measures, that's kind of where I count some of the holding codes and things of that nature.
Okay.
So, we have done that a couple of times. Under construction, I have 13 illicit discharge. That also includes like where we're requiring CAT plans. So if we say, okay, we've issued a stop work order, then we'll say, provide a corrective action plan to us. And then if there's no compliance, we can hold permits or other approvals.
So on any of the spills, have we had any industrial spills?
Let's see, the most, the most recent one.
Proprietary nature of
The train.
asking that question.
We have had a couple of spills.
The most recent one was from a multifamily residential unit.
Okay.
You had subcontractors washing out paint and drywall mud buckets onto the property, but they didn't exactly pay attention where the nearest storm drain was. And so it was washing down the storm drain. I received photos from the fire chief over the weekend of Drake's Creek, just cloudy and white from where it was discharging from
Really?
the outfall.
From that one incident.
I think it was happening, for several days. And obviously, if our inspector goes out on one day and they start doing it the next day, she may not be back out there for 2 weeks to a month. It just varies. So they were doing it, and obviously a citizen sent something to the fire chief, and he called me immediately.
So we gave them warning. Said,
oh, no. That was a immediate notice of violation.
okay.
Yes.
Okay. And they continued to do it?
No,
We gave them a notice of
stopped.
violation?
They stopped. They provided us with they responded to the NOV and provided us with a corrective action plan
So
to
did
mitigate.
the city have to do anything to clean it up?
Mm-mm,
Nothing. Fire department didn't have to wash it off or anything like
Mm-mm.
that? Okay.
no,
So we've not had to issue any show cause, or consent orders or anything like that?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Which takes me to my next question. So as a result of that, has the utility review, is that what's called the appeals review?
Mhm.
Have they met?
They meet annually for training. They have not, they've not reviewed any appeals because we haven't received any appeals.
Yeah.
Typically, the way we've handled these situations, and usually through regular construction, these measures, they resolve the issue and it doesn't really proceed. But some of the other, like, maybe like a property that's not actively under construction, but they're grading or something like that, and they need a land disturbance permit, those are handled similarly, but then they're typically not as compliant. And so then we will send a letter saying we can assess you fees up to this amount per our ordinance. But in order to do that, we have to work with legal. So then we coordinate with legal, and then we end up meeting with them, with our attorney, and usually that resolves the issue. And so there aren't necessarily any fees that have been formally assessed. It's more about resolving the issue and getting them to stop what they're doing. So that's how we've managed it. But as part of this new ordinance and our enforcement response plan, Helen has been reviewing surrounding municipalities matrix for fees, assessment matrix. And so we'll be looking, to adopt those as part of that enforcement response plan once that's finalized. And then it will just be very clear, like currently, the ordinance that's in place currently is pretty vague. It just has a range of what fees could be assessed per day. It doesn't give any guidance really as to, is it $5,000 a day for grading without a permit, or is it 50? What's reasonable? And so the penalty matrix will give staff a lot of guidance. Like if it's this, it's $250 a day. If it's this and this, it's, so that'll help.
And to be able to use that finding mechanism that the state allows, we had to have an appeals board so that there was due process
that's right.
for but they've not had to meet, they've not had to litigate or arbitrate
That's
any
right.
problems.
Yes. But we train every year so that we're prepared.
Sorry, a lot of that's
No,
just
that-
information for my,
Really
I
good
didn't know.
information that it needs to be explained.
Okay.
Because some of the stuff I knew that, that the ordinance was designed for that, but I didn't know if I'm sure the Alderman will probably ask us when this goes before the board. They'll ask those same questions because they are important.
Was a fine issued in the incident you were describing earlier? Should have been.
So typically, we respond, we evaluate, and then we make the proper notifications to other agencies. So very much when waters of the state are involved, we heavily rely on TDEC to take their enforcement action for discharges to the waters of the state. Now, obviously, they're discharging it through their private system at an outfall that's going into the water of the state. So it's still essentially our MS4, but we try to incorporate and include the state so that they can take enforcement action for any impacts to waters of the state. So they were notified, and they were supposed to make a site visit, but we haven't heard anything yet from them.
So to piggyback on Michael's question, why shouldn't we have the ability on a situation like that? Because we had to roll a fire engine out there. I mean, the city incurred cost
On
Yes.
on
Yeah.
the spill. So why can't we, I mean, is there something that prohibits the city's ability on a situation like that, when there's a clear violation, to fine them $50 or some kind of assessment?
No, we're able to assess fees for that. Historically, just that hasn't been the preferred way forward. The guidance had been that, we wanted the issues resolved. And part of that is because we want to ensure we treat everyone equally. And for instance, we had a situation within the last year where someone had been dumping a lot of paint down their ditch, which was actually a stream. And then they were having issues with algal blooms. So then they put, what is it?
Aquashade.
Aquashade in the stream, which
Kills the fish.
Yes. And so it's a single property owner. So, that's just as egregious as what's happened over in this other
Sure.
situation. And so if we find the one because it's related to a larger development, it's not, I don't know, do
Well,
we treat an
be
individual property
consistent.
owner the
Yeah,
same? Yeah.
That would kill the fish, but at least the fish had a fresh coat of paint.
Yeah.
There's that. Several different
And
colors to choose from.
Aquashade.
Fresh.
Yeah. So,
Finding may be a deterrent to that.
Yeah.
People think about it a little.
Yeah, I think so, because there is no question in my mind when people do that, they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're without question.
something that's been very helpful is the coordination with the property maintenance officers. They've been attending some of these with our staff, and that adds a little bit more to our visit and results, I think, in a little better compliance.
I'm gonna talk to you more about that.
Yeah, I would expect the staff, if this is a problem, to come and say, hey, we need an addendum to give us more abilities to find, or I mean, if,
And
we
that's the-
can't
yeah.
allow.
That's the intent of the penalty matrix, is to provide that consistent enforcement.
Yeah.
And based off of the action that's taken
We
place.
don't want the philosophy though to be, it's easier to ask forgiveness
Right.
than permission. We don't want to fall into that trap.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't want to make you a stormtrooper, you know,
That could be so cool.
but
Can I get a
but
badge?
we have an
Absolutely.
obligation to protect the environment, in my opinion.
I agree.
Okay. All right.
Well,
And-
we'll, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Can the city be fined by TDEC or the state?
If they determine that we don't have the mechanism in place to enforce the program, that's always a potential, that's stated in the MS4 permit, duty to comply. There's always penalties that can be implemented on a municipality, but the way that our ordinance is written, that's
Yeah,
included in there.
So this obviously satisfies that, but can we be fined if we have an incident from a property owner or construction that causes a serious problem in the lake, even while we have this?
I don't believe they would do that.
Yeah.
I don't believe they would do that, as long as we are making the proper notifications and documenting and reporting.
As long as we're following the
Procedure.
procedure.
That's right.
Yes.
Of
Mhm.
Yes,
the
that's
ordinance.
I don't
That's
believe
correct.
that would occur.
I would like, when you finish looking at the matrix that you're looking at, come back to the board and kind of report, because that's such a, we want to make sure that is covered on our part, because it is a concern, a very deep concern.
Would you like that as like a receive and file, like for reference? Because it's kind of indirectly adopted through the ordinance as part of the enforcement response plan. So,
Yes, I mean, I would,
or would you like that as to bring it as a resolution?
I don't know, what do y'all think? Do you think should?
I don't understand the question.
He wanted, in bringing the penalty matrix to the board,
Yes.
for review, I'm just asking what format you would like that, whether just receive and file, like informational purposes, here's the penalty matrix,
Yeah,
what we'll be enforcing,
or
or a
resolution.
resolution.
I don't,
Stephen Fowle may be okay. 'Cause we
Yeah.
can ask about it in the BOMA meeting.
Right. I think that'd be all right instead of a resolution.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes. Yeah.
But
I
I
will
will,
ask about it.
I know, but without a doubt, I know we will, and I think other members of the board will too, but there may be, if there is some concern or dissatisfaction with the board, it may come back as they might want to have it come back as a resolution. I don't know. I can't speak for them.
Yeah,
So I don't know.
okay,
Um,
all right. I'll
you
talk
know,
to Jesse and Lance.
do that and see, and if there's a problem with the issue that what we have, tell them to, get in touch with us or let us know what their position is on it.
Okay.
And then if we need to cuss them out, we will.
I think it will make enforcement much more effective.
Yeah, I do too.
Just having set, like, here it is, and
It's not subjective.
yes, it's not subjective, because that's been the fear. If you assess something and then it comes to the board, and then, well, who made that decision?
Right.
Who said this was $1,000 a day, or, so having it very clear, I think will make
Okay.
things more.
So the salaries and expenses of this program is paid for by the stormwater fees collected, correct?
Yes.
Are other municipals changing their stormwater fees? We've never changed ours, have we? In the
We
history
haven't.
of it?
No, we haven't. We are definitely overdue
Is
to
it-
review.
Is it sufficient revenue to do what we need to do? Because I know we've made progress in cleaning up a lot of problems.
Yeah.
So, Sarah, I guess you, the staff would need to bring back to us if there's a problem with this fund not covering everything that the state wants us to do and what needs to be done to protect the environment.
To date, it has been sufficient.
Okay.
But as we move through some of these larger projects that we need to tackle, it's possible we need to increase or to review for what's
Yeah.
sufficient.
Or to take a look at it and see where we are.
That's right.
See what other cities charge.
Yeah, because I don't know what other cities charge on this.
It's individual. It's based on the needs of the city, basically, the size of the utility and what we need to maintain and keep functioning
Right.
correctly. So it'll vary from
Okay.
city to city, but
yeah, we'll take a
We
look
could
at that.
review
and
that
see
for
it.
sure.
Yeah. Good. All right. Anything else or on this, on those questions or anything else on the ordinance? When will we take this to the board?
our next meeting,
Okay, all right. That's good.
so we can have it
Yeah,
adopted
by
before the end.
September.
I'm just trying to think of when the dead date would be, like the 2 readings that it goes through. I guess. Let's see. Yes, it would be before December way.
Yeah, so 27th, and then
Someone, I think, probably somewhere in October, maybe.
I think our second reading might be September 10th if we're on the 27th agenda.
Yeah, we gotta figure, we have to figure out, somebody might have some serious, like what they deem a serious question, we may not, oh man, because we've had that, but they want to defer it or something like that, because I'm always, aware of those kind of situations, and they may not, because you all have done a great job on this, and we appreciate it, we really do. It's something, when this whole thing started, that we had to do it, I can remember, which I'm not gonna say who it is, but I've seen people come in like carpet washers and things like that they'll pull their truck right there by grade and just empty it. And I used to see that at particular apartment complexes that did various things like that. But we had no enforcement, and even as a younger man, I knew that was wrong. Like, what in the hell are you doing? You can't do that.
Right.
But they just, we can. They knew there was no enforcement. But now we do, people are beginning to take issue with the environment. And I'm glad to see it. So I guess my point in all that is I'm really glad that you all stepped forward to really work on this. Is there anything that you all want to talk to us about, anything of this ordinance that might enlighten us, or just anything about it?
I think the only thing I would maybe add to the discussion is that I think that having been involved with the small MS4 permit program since its inception in 2002, 2003,
Right.
I can safely say this permit is the most prescriptive and I think the most comprehensive that we've seen. I think TDEC has learned through, they have issued these every 5 or so years. And this is the first time that permanent stormwater requirements are not just in the permit, they're actually in the Tennessee state rule. And so where the permanent stormwater management requirements had changed every 5 or so years, gotten a little bit different each 5, they're set unless the rule changes. So future permits are anticipated to simply reference the Tennessee state rule. So I think that'll aid in some more predictability going down the road.
Right.
And it seems to have done that so far because it's more, it's really clear what the requirements are, particularly with those permanent stormwater management requirements.
Well, that's an interesting observation. I haven't really thought about on your end like that, but I can see how that would be effective. So just care what's going on, what's up before me, because I'm one of those type type people. Is there anything that city wants to talk about this, or anything of this ordinance at all, or anything?
No, I think it's a good ordinance, and Helen and of course Christine's done a lot of the legwork on that too, and they've done a really good job. So
Yeah.
thank them.
All right, from the committee, does anyone have any questions or anything dealing with this ordinance?
Great job.
All right, is everybody ready, or does anybody, I need by the rule I need an emotion to entertain a motion on
I
this.
think we've already made a motion.
Yes, sir, that is exactly right. I'm too busy in my mind celebrating. Today was a good day for the Skidmore family, so, but yes, there's been a proper motion and a proper second. Is there any other further discussion on the motion? Does anybody need the motion repeated? Hearing none, is everybody ready to vote on this, the motion of the ordinance? All right, there's the ordinance amending Hendersonville Municipal Code, Title 18 Stormwater Management Ordinance to comply with the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation MS4 permit. Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, passes unanimously on to the Board of Mayor and Alderman on next agenda for today. And if there is no other, since this was a special call meeting dealing strictly with the ordinance, no other discussion, no other thing can be spoken about. So
Move to adjourn.
thank you. And move and adjourn at 5:08. And thank you guys for coming on this special meeting.